Hi folks, Kevin here. Well, today I thought I'd share with you how I've been addressing a problem related to water conservation and soil loss on the property. Previously in one of my videos I showed the hugelkultur pits that we placed years ago, 2010, on various spots up in the area that we cleared, and how that created an abundance of water subterranean and created microenvironments in the pond systems. And it's worked out extremely well. However, when we did that, we did lots of compaction. We stripped away the surface soil. And as a result of that, every time that there's a rainfall, you lose soil. So how do we deal with situations like that, especially the situations that we create, because soil is so necessary to have. So being soil minded and water conscious, one of the ways, I'm just going to show you an example of going to the source. So behind me over there is pond 7. Still got some ice on it, and it runs through our last little swale system here, and that swale system has a spillway right back here that runs down into the woods. So I can still have some erosion as a result of the water moving along the surface. Okay, we're down here just on the other side of the spillway. It's about a 3-foot drop off where I'm standing, just about 25 feet away from, about 35 feet away from the swale spillway. And that's actually it, right in that location. It's about 12 to 15 feet wide, but as the material and the brush border has been growing up there, we could see that it's captured leaves, the fallen branches and twigs, and it's creating a little bit of a stream. And then it becomes somewhat pacified as it spreads out, drops further down. And we see all of the leaves in this area are nice and dark. Now some of it's because they're so moist. And you see all the branches and twigs down here. And all of this water is flowing down, and heading down towards the big pond way down and back. And that's where we're going to head. We're going to look how nature deals with this situation. Well, I'm out here. I'm down by the big beaver dam area. Actually, it's a series of dams. This wasn't here years ago when Thea and I first moved on the property. You may recall in the video that I did with hugelkultur pits, we described how this whole area is nothing more than a big glacial deposit of gravel and boulders all in this area, and some areas rich in sand. My neighbors around this area have gravel mine operations. There's a landfill next door to our property. And right here, years ago, and there's an abandoned road that borders one edge of our property as well. But years ago, there was a small little stream that only ran seasonally down in this area. And I don't know if you can hear the abundance of wildlife, how well it shows up on this camera. But this is just full of diversity. And we've got a water catchment here. The watershed has been expanded by the beaver moving into the area. That's brought in an abundance of diverse species into the area as well. Now over the time, many of the neighbors around have trapped and killed many of the beaver, but there's enough resources here that the beaver still come back, which is really wonderful. And what I want to do is I'm going to take the camera here in a second and show you a couple of, well, I'm going to call them the first engineers, what they did with woody materials, what we call hugelkultur, building up mounds of wood and then packing it with dirt the way the beaver do. And they made dams, but they also created abundant, rich soil and beautiful ecosystems full of biodiversity and water cleaning bioremediation systems as well. And that's what I'm mimicking up above. That's why I'm breaking the rules when it comes to what most people would say, never put hugelkultur on contour, because it's going to suck up all that water. Well, it's a way for us to capture soil and build soil on our property. And as you know, as we build soil, we've got a water capturing system as well. So without further ado, I'll grab the camera and show you this. So right here, you could see this is the second of the dams that have been built down here. And on the other side of this, even though the brush has grown up so well, there's spots where it's 5-6 foot deep, right about, and you just can't even see it. But if you were to go walk into this area, the soil below this area is probably a full 6 foot deep. Now, I don't know if you can appreciate it, but there's another 3 to 4 foot high dam wall right there. And yes, it does leak, and occasionally these dams that the beaver build, or ultimately they all are going to collapse, but they're capturing soil behind it. And there's such biological diversity all over here, from the invertebrates to the amphibians, the reptiles, the mammals, and certainly all of the avian species that are in here as well, and certainly all of the abundance of fish. So years ago, when we first got this property, out near where that the old beaver den was, just this side of that, there was a small stream that I could step over. It was about 2 feet deep and just cut through the nice gravel bed area. So it's kind of amazing what can happen in a few years. Now Hank's out there walking on what's going to be one of the chinampa beds that I'm going to put in here in the future. So we're going to harvest a lot of this beautiful rich soil that's down in this area. And let's look right next to Hank. And so one of the young bachelor males has come back, and as you could see, he's been feasting right here. They love that cambium layer of just, you know, the inner bark layer of the woody material. Come on, Hank. Hank. So this whole wall here has all been freshly repaired by the beaver. And last time I was down here, we scared him, and Hank got a little bit scared when the beaver started making a hell of a ruckus out here. I don't see any fish right now, but this water's just teeming with fish and wildlife. So this is a wonderful way of capturing soil, capturing water, and certainly filtering the water, bioremediating the water, any contaminants that are in the water along the way. So let's go take a look at what we've done up above. Well, I don't know if the camera's in the exact location that I filmed the construction of this hugelkultur bed in 2011. I've subsequently pulled that video down because I had some music with time-lapse, me going into the woods, grabbing logs and brush and building up this bed. And I covered it with wood chips. And my plan was, the slope comes down the property from up above. And this is all area where the hugelkultur pits are buried, all along in here. Just loaded with water in those areas. Lots of carbon sequestered in this area. However, one of the things I did, I used heavy equipment to compact down the soil, all that gravel and sand material. I packed in all of the holes that were created in that hugelkultur pit. And then I smoothed it all out, and it took a couple of years to actually get that compacted down. Well, every single time, when we compact the soil like that and we strip away it, whenever we're doing a construction site, whatever it is that we're doing, whether we're rototilling, plowing, or we're doing new construction and compacting the soil, we're decreasing the porosity. We're stripping away the soil that was on the surface initially, and we're decreasing that soil porosity, so the water can't really sink into the soil very well. It can't retain the water, and certainly the soil, there's no life in that soil once we strip it away. So one of the ways of me addressing this was seeing what happened down there in the beaver dams down below. So I thought of no better way than to use lots of small material, that's the brushy material, on the bottom of these hugelkultur beds. Now these ones aren't dug below grade. These ones were laid right on the surface, put in an arch to help control the water runoff. I did have breakaways here at the edges. Now that was 2011 when I put these beds in. They've been built up 3 times since then. So I've come down, I put some compost on the surface of them, and put more wood chips and cardboard and New England Journal of Medicine journals, you know, all my old medical journals and all, and even many of my files went right into here on subsequent layers. I planted potatoes in here. We've grown potatoes out of it as well. Really great crops that have come out of here. Then I decided I'm going to plant some small pawpaw seeds. They haven't done that well, but that's what the tree guards are for. But this was a big experiment to see how well things actually happen. Now, if you were to take a big steel stake, like we used Premier 1 fencing, and on our property, once we compacted down that soil, it was just like every place else. You couldn't even drive one of the points of the Premier 1 stakes into the ground. Just rock hard, not porous enough to absorb water, encouraging soil runoff, and so we were losing soil, filling up the ponds, filling up the canal systems, and I didn't want any more of that, so I put in these hugelkultur beds on contour, purposely with the smallest materials on the bottom, all of the brush, all of the small branches on the base, put logs on top of it, then wood chips on top of that. It worked out extremely well. We've got, without the wood chips that I've laid on top of it, we've got about 7 or 8 inches thick of sediment that is built up over time just in front of these hugelkultur beds. Yes, Timmy. And they have been, the hugelkultur beds have captured all of that soil, and then I needed to, because the soil was so loose and all, put wood chips in it as well. So I mixed the wood chips in with the soil that was caught there, and then went ahead and built up the beds as well. Now there's 2 beds. This is the one that's been rebuilt 3 times. And let's see if I can spin. And that one was all the logs, and they are starting to decompose. You could see some growth on the surface of it, but you could see the depth. Hopefully you could see the depth of where the soil has gone. The soil has actually built up about 1 foot deep over in that area. So bear with me 1 second. Although it's going to take some time, I'm going to use the same technique of creating a barrier with woody material, any carbon source. It can be, it could even include not just wood chips, but cardboard and paper and all. And I'm going to shoot a video pretty soon too to show you what I'm doing with building soil with cardboard and paper, trying to have 0 waste of any organic material from our site. But back to the point, where that water is running off from pond 7 and going down the hill, we're losing soil there because it's a rather steep decline. And so what I want to do is grab up many of the brush material, the branches that are down, and create little barriers. Gradually over time, all the little orifices will be filled in by leaf material, cardboard material, paper material, as I deposit it around that arch. And it'll slow the water down, help to capture some of the sediment that's there and build soil in those locations. That way I can help to control the direction of the water without destroying or disturbing the roots of the trees that are in the forest. And I can also do it in such a way that I can potentially even harvest some of that soil years down the road from now. But I'm primarily interested in filtering water, cleaning the water, retaining as much water on site for as long as possible, putting clean water back into the aquifer, and creating an abundance of rich soil, because the biodiversity in that soil really helps to help all of the plant life around us grow. Well, I hope this was helpful. Please give me a thumbs up if you think this was of value, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Thanks so much, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.